So this is the first chapter, that is fundamentals of software testing. So the first part of the session is talking about history of testing. That means so half the way the testing has been evolved over the period of last 40, 50 years. Then what is the definition of testing? Then the second one is testing challenges. So as a testing engineer, so what all different challenges we usually come across. So these two things we'll discuss next 15-20 minutes. So the first one is brief history of testing. So as we all know that the software is a very youngest industry. That means that it is having the age of around 50 to 60 years. So out of that, testing is holding almost 50 years, 40 to 50 years of age. So at the initial days, so there was no testing actually. So only debugging was there. After the programmer implements the code, if he finds any mistake in the program, he just debugs the code and removes the cause of failure. That was the main motto at that time. So it was around 1950s or late 1950s of time. So we call that period as debugging oriented time. And later after 1956 or 57, that means early 1960s we can say. So in between 1960 and 1970, then they started of looking debugging and testing is different. So once they developed the application, they might have done the debugging as well. Once they received the application, they started of testing the application. So with the intention of finding some problems in the application. So that's how the testing had been evolved from one period to another period. So now it is having a very significant kind of momentum. So we'll look at. So if we look at this in the late 1970s, actually testing will be defined like it's a process of executing a program or system with the intention of finding errors. Earlier to that, we just had like a debugging kind of thing, but at this time, so we just identified testing as a process, and we need to run so many interrelated activities to test the application. That is again with the intention of finding some errors in it, some problems in it. And after some time later, they just felt that it is not only finding the errors, in addition to that we'll have to do something else. So then they concentrated on the quality. So at that time they felt like testing is any activity aimed at evaluating an attribute of a program or system, and it is the measurement of software quality. So before they just done the testing to identify the mistakes, but now they realize that so quality also equally important when we do the testing, and they started off measuring that quality based on the constraints, time, cost or scope we can say. And now the present time, like after 2000 year, so they feel that testing also a kind of engineering activity, and it must be having some kind of life cycle process. That is the reason they realized that, and they defined this testing as it is a concurrent life cycle process of engineering. That means that so testing also will follow various phases, and we'll have to do the testing based on those phases only. and using and maintaining testware in order to measure and improve the quality of software being tested. At the same time, so here and in this current time, we are following a kind of maintenance of the testware. Testware is nothing but so what all different artifacts we prepare to test. So those all dumped in the particular repositories and those will be used to test the application in a quality manner. So this is the evolution of the testing over the time period. So now if we look at this slide, after that actually, so we understand that the testing has been evolved over the period of time. So at the same time, what is the necessity of evolving the testing over the period of time? Because it dependent on different parameters. So what are those different parameters that are evolving time to time? So one is software size, because earlier it was like a too small in the size, but today the size has been drastically increased. We are implementing larger size of the software. So the moment the size of the software is getting increased, at the same time the complexity of the software also increased. So if the size of the software is increased, then there is a requirement for the huge development teams. And then, so we require a lot of good methods and standards. At the same time, to test, we require a good process. Then the momentum has been started for the independent test organizations because the importance of testing has been increased a lot. Then only because of importance happened to the testing, so lot of testing professionals are required to test the applications. Now, as per the latest definition of the testing, testing is recognized as a concurrent lifecycle activities of the engineering process. So it definitely requires a specialized skill to run the application. That is the reason. So now a lot of testing professionals are required. These all various different parameters are evolving from that time to till now. So this is about development and testing evolution over the period of time.